So now let's see the input data we have. Okay, so I have mentioned email, right? And those emails I have it in a Excel file that I have told you, right? So let me show you the data set now. As you can see, I have email subject, email body, and along with that, for testing purpose, I have written the classification, expected classification. So the first top 10 mails falls under customer service and the remaining mails falls under non-customer service. And you might wonder how I got this mail. I just used Copilot to generate these random contents for me. Okay, so which will fall under customer service and which does not fall under customer service. Here you can clearly see this customer is reporting an issue, right? I have received an alert for a login for an unknown location. Basically, it is like for fraudulent activities happening. So this customer is reporting this particular issue to the banker, right? So the banker should take the correct response, corrective actions from their end, right? So it clearly says it is a customer service. And if you see this subject reminder annual performance review submissions, which is internal to that particular employee, right? So this falls under non-customer service. So we have the sample data over here in our Excel, and we are going to make use of this particular Excel to build the use case. Okay, now let me take you guys to the Cloud Studio. Okay, once you type cloud.uipath.com, you will be landed in the home page, right? And you would be having multiple icons on the left hand side, especially the orchestrator icon. Just beside that orchestrator icon, you would be having something called a studio. Okay, just click on the studio. This once you click on the studio, it will take you to this particular page where here you can install your desktop studio, or else if you want to build the solution using cloud itself, you can do that. How you can do that? Just click on new project. Okay, once you do that, it is going to ask you the project name. As I have already created the project, what I will do, I will directly open this particular project. Okay, just I'm clicking here. Once I click here, here you have the ability to set up the trigger. Let's say you are getting the request from email, right? Then as soon as you get an email in your inbox, then the particular flow should be triggered. If this your use case, then you can use the trigger. When Outlook mail message received, you can use that particular trigger instead of you can replace this manual trigger with the Outlook trigger. That you can do that. Okay, and next what I'm doing, I'm reading the Excel. Basically here, in order, what I have done here is I have shown you all our sample data is present in the Excel, right? I'm reading all the data which is available in this particular workbook with this worksheet name. So here I have given the workbook path, and here I have given the sheet name. You might wonder, it has only sentiment analysis.xlsx, right? Then where is the full file path? So for that, here what I'm using read range activity. And whatever activities that we are using in the cloud, it is the we would be able to use the cloud versions of it only. Okay, so here I have placed my Excel in the OneDrive. So basically we are going to use O365 connections. Okay, it is not, we are not going to directly use our desktop file. See, I have this file over here in the downloads folder. We would be not able to use this file directly using read range activity, because this is the O365 connector, right range, and you can see right Microsoft 365 logo. So which means it is the connector. Using this connector we are going to use. Then if you want to access this particular file, what you have to do, all you have to do is place this particular file inside the OneDrive. See, if I go inside documents, I do have that sentiment analysis.xlsx. So I have created the connection over here just to integrate my Microsoft 365 with UiPath. How we can do it? So to do it, just go over here and you have something called as connections, right? So here you can see I have connected my Microsoft OneDrive and the SharePoint, right? So how I did it. So to do that, once you click on this, any one of this activity, right? Here it would be asking you to create the connection. See, just I will show you one thing. Here you get one option, right? Add new connection. Just click on add new connection and it will take you to the authorization page. So here you can see, right? It is asking me to connect my Microsoft OneDrive and SharePoint with UiPath. So basically, I'm authorizing this. Okay, once you click on connect, the connection will be getting created. Okay, that's the reason we didn't got any file path at all. Okay, just we got the file name alone. And here I have provided the sheet name and our Excel has headers, right? So I have enabled this as true, right? All right. So whatever data we have in the Excel, now everything will be stored inside the data table, right? See, you can see in the output, everything is getting stored in the variable called read range. So this read range is nothing but a data table, which will be in the form of rows and columns. Okay, and here you can see I have used something called as get asset. Why I have used this particular activity? If you remember, we have downloaded one file called JSON, right? This JSON file from GCP. So whatever values we have over here, I have stored inside the asset so that it would be secured, right? So for that particular reason, I have used get asset to retrieve these JSON values. Okay. So for that particular reason only, we have used get asset activity. And here you can see we have an activity called Google Cloud Scope. So this Vertex AI and the storage bucket, Google Cloud Storage bucket, everything would be available inside this particular activity only. That is Google Cloud Scope. Okay, that is GCP platform. Okay, so here we have Google Cloud Scope and we have created the JSON file, right? So that particular thing I'm calling it over here. As you can see, I'm getting this particular value, the password, right? The JSON key value, we are reading it from the asset, and where are we storing? We are storing inside the variable called value, and that particular value I'm calling it here and I'm converting to the secure password. Why I'm converting to secure password? Because this particular field accepts only the secure string, it will not accept the normal string. So that's the reason I'm converting that string, normal string, to a secure string. Okay, and in order to do that, this is the keyword new system dot net dot network credential, and this particular value indicates that particular variable and dot secure password. So this is the syntax for converting your normal string for any string to a secure string. Okay, so now this is fine. And then the next step, what we wanted to do, basically all our data is present here. We have to iterate one by one, right? So that we would be able to send this email body to the Vertex AI, right? So for that, I'm iterating all the rows one by one. And for that, I have used for each row in data table activity. And I have already mentioned read range is our data table variable. And I'm calling this over here. Done. And this delay we can talk about later. And this particular activity, generate text completion, is the exact piece which we are looking for. Using this particular activity only, we would be able to hit the Vertex AI and the prompt which we have created, right? Which I have shown you just before. Whatever prompt that we have created, that should be passed as a input over here. You can see this particular activity is expecting something called as prompt, and that prompt should go over here. Just go to text builder and paste your prompt, and at the last place we want to pass our email body, right? So this is our input and we want to analyze this particular body, right? This particular request only, correct? So for that, I'm calling that over here. So current row is the temporary variable which will hold this entire row itself. We don't want the entire row need to be passed in the prompt. We just need only this email body, right? So I'm just passing that alone for that current row of email body. So this will pick up this particular row entirely, and then in this entire row, this will pick up this particular cell alone. And in the next iteration, it will pick this and it will go on further. Okay. And this is the keyword for that. Okay, so job done. And for from this particular generate text completion, we are going to get some output. And before that particular thing, I wanted to show you a few things. If I go to manage properties or show additional properties, in additional properties, see the max tokens, right? The maximum length what this particular prompt can accept is it can accept only 1024 length. Okay, so anything beyond this particular, so here we have some request, right? Basically here we have some message, right? If this message exceeds that 1024 token, right, then your prompt is going to say you error. Okay, so it is by default. And the temperature, so the temperature will be in the range of 0 to 1. So why I have given 0? So the reason being is if you give the value as 0, right, it won't be creative. The model here, you can see we have multiple models available over here. If I enable this drop down, you can see Bison 001, 002 and Unicorn 001. I'm using 001 Unicorn. You can use the other two as well. Okay. So if you give the value as 0, the model, whatever model that we have given over here, it won't be creative. You can see a number between 0 and 1. Higher values like 0.8 will make the output more random, which means your model will work more creatively. But we don't wanted the model to be more creative. We wanted the model to work as what we have instructed, right? So that's why I have given the temperature as 0. And it is also going to give you output. Basically, here we have mentioned, right, the output should be like this, the JSON array, classification and a reason it should have. So it is going to give you that particular output over here in this particular variable called vertex text. Okay, just to see that particular output, I am logging that with the help of log message activity. And the next is deserialize JSON. Why we need to use this particular activity? Because we have two things over here, right? This is a JSON array, and inside this JSON array, we have two things. One is classification, and the other one is reason. And finally, what we wanted to do, we wanted to write that classification over here and the reason over here, right? So in order to do that, you have to deserialize your JSON. So when you do deserialize, then classification would be coming individually and the reason would be coming individually. So that's the reason we were using deserialized JSON. And for here, I'm passing the vertex text, which we got it as output from the this particular activity, that is generate text completion, right? So this is done. Once we are done with this, we wanted to do some steps, right? It can be anything. For now, what I'm doing, I'm just logging the classification and a reason in our Excel file. But in real time, it can be like forwarding that particular mail to the customer service team. So the customer service team can take prompt action, right? So those steps and all will go over here inside the then block, right? So now I'm checking. I have mentioned after, see, if I expand this particular activity, the output which I'm getting in this, it is going to get stored in this particular variable called the JSON object underscore one. And from that, what I wanted to check if the JSON object one dot classification. So basically, if the classification is customer service, then go to then block. Go to then block and log the message over here, right? And if it is non-customer service, then go to else block and log the message over here. So we don't need if else in this particular scenario, but in real time here you would be doing, if it is a customer service mail, we are going to forward that mail to the customer service team. And if it is not a customer service mail, we are not going to do anything. So that will be playing over here. But just for an example, I have used like this. Okay, so that you will be getting the clear picture. And I'm using update row item activity to update my data table. So initially I would be updating my data table. At the end of the flow, at the end of at the end, we are going to write everything into this Excel sheet. Okay. So again, for that, I'm using right range activity. Again, I'm giving the workbook path and the sheet name, include headers, how to write. So basically here you would be getting option, either you want to append or you want to overwrite the data or you want to insert a row. Here I just want to overwrite it. Whatever content that I'm going to have already, I'm going to replace the entire content with the with this particular content, with this read range content, after making this update and all. So here you would be updating the classification and here you would be updating the reason, right? All those things will be available in the read range variable, that is in the data table variable. And finally, we are calling that particular variable here so that everything will be written in this particular Excel sheet. And now I will go to the OneDrive first and I will show you the file. Okay, the input file which we have placed. Let me get into here. Sorry, documents and sentiment analysis.xlsx is the input. And if I open this, I don't have anything in the D column and E column, right? Let's run our flow. Okay, let's run the flow which we have built now. Okay, post which let's see why whether the Excel sheet is getting updated or not. Okay, so let's see that. And I told you here we have something called as delay, right? I told you that I would be explaining in a while. So now it's the time for this particular explanation. So basically, I'm using the trial version of GCP. Okay. So everything, whatever we are doing here, this generate text completion, everything will work as a API. Okay. So within some point of time, let's take per minute. Okay. Per minute, GCP will accept only limited number of API requests. Okay, so UiPath will be sending UPI request, the API request to the GCP, and per minute, let's say it would accept only 10 requests, and with here within a minute, like we would be sending more than 10 requests. Okay, because of that, your activity, this generate text completion activity is going to get failed. So for that particular reason, I have given the delay so that after 30 seconds only, this particular activity is going to get executed. But in enterprise edition, it won't be a major concern. You can use this generate text completion without the delay itself. Okay. And in the enterprise edition, they would be paying additional cost for increasing those request limit. Okay, so now everything is done. Let's execute this particular workflow and let's validate this. And it would be taking some time. Maybe I would be fast forwarding the video and then I'll be showing you the results. But I'll show you the very first response that we are going to get it from the Vertex AI using the unicorn model. I have used unicorn model, but you are always, you can use the other models, which is Bison 001 or you can use the Bison 002. For me, this unicorn worked better, so that's the reason I have used the unicorn model. So now you can see this Google Cloud Scope is getting executed, and where it is currently our flow is over here. You can see the status over here, right? That is in running state. As soon as it reaches this particular, once it crosses this particular activity, that is generate text completion, we would be getting the result set over here, because like we have the log message, right? See, it has reached this particular generate text completion and it has moved on. And you can see here we got the classification as customer service. In the Excel also, the top 10 mails which was related to customer service, right? You can see that over here. For the better visibility, I will write it in the notepad file. You can see it has given the classification as customer service and the reason why it has classified as customer service. The reason behind it is the customer is reporting the security related concern, right? And it is urgent and requires immediate attention from customer service team. So that is the reason it has classified it as customer service. So let's check the content also, the email body which we have in our data set, right? So let's validate that as well, whether it is correct or not. So let me copy this body quickly and put it in the, I'll paste it in the notepad. Okay, as you can see, dear customer service, I have received an alert for a login from an unknown location, and the customer also saying he didn't initiated that, and he is concerned about his account security. So he is asking, please suspend his online access immediately. So basically, here he is mentioning the same thing, whatever the A has returned as a reason, right? That is the overall content over here, right? You can see. So we can see now the prompt has classified this particular thing as correctly as a customer service. So let's validate the other stuffs also. Okay, and we know the first 10 mails belongs to customer service, and you can see now it has classified around 4 mails, and you can clearly see it has classified it as customer service. Okay, and sometimes, right, even if you give 30 seconds, because of the API limit in GCP, your text completion, this generate text completion activity will break. Okay, but that is not in our hand, but that is completely fine. You will not, so the same scenario will not replicate in the enterprise edition. It is getting only in the community edition, that is in the trial version of GCP, right? If you want to increase the API limit, again we have to pay few amount. Then only we would be able to increase that particular API limit. Okay. So I'll fast forward the video. Maybe at the end of the video, I'll show you the data which we are going to get it in this particular Excel file. Okay. So as we can see now, luckily we didn't got into any error because of the API limit, and everything went successful, and it has classified the customer service mails, and it has also classified the non-customer service mail. And you can see it has this particular flow, customer service sentiment analysis flow has been ended successfully as well. Okay, so now let's go to the Excel data and let's validate whether we do have the right data, whatever the data which we were expecting, right? Basically the classification, actual classification from the prompt and the reason from the prompt. So let's validate that as well, whether we have received it or not. And here we go. As you can see, the expected classification which we had it earlier, right? But we didn't had the classification result and also the reason. And you can see the email is about security related concern, the same thing which we have seen, right, in the Cloud Studio. So if I go to the first reason, and the same thing I have pasted in the notepad file also, and you can see the reason, whatever reason we have over here, and the same thing is being replicated also over here, right? And also if I go over here, you can see we have the right range activity. Using this activity only, we were trying to write the data, right, the updated data in our Excel file, and we were successfully able to write it. So If you encounter any issues like the prompt is not classifying properly, then what you have to do, you have to fine tune your prompt based on the reason. Okay. So yeah, this is all about the sentiment analysis project that is using Vertex AI with UiPath. I hope now you guys got some better picture like how we are integrating the Vertex AI with UiPath Cloud Studio, right? So I would suggest you guys to do the same thing, whatever I have done right in this particular session. You guys try it for the use case which is there in your organization or you could think of, right? Which would help for the organization to work better and to provide the better satisfaction to the customers. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you for seeing this video. See you in the next video. Until then, happy automation.